making a new cover case for my earbuds. The silicone one lasted, I think, a week before it started shredding. So start with a magic circle, and I'm using an H-hook with some cotton yarn. Start with the magic circle, chain 2. This is your first double crochet. Counts as your first double crochet, and then you're going to do 2 more double crochets into your magic circle. It's your first cluster, a chain 1, and then another cluster of 3 double crochets. And chain 1, another cluster of double crochets. Chain 1, I'm getting towards the end. Got 3 clusters so far. So this will be our last cluster of double crochets. And chain 1, and I'm pulling my magic ring again, and I'm going to slip this into the top of my chain 2. That finishes round 1. Then I'm going to chain 2, and into my chain 1 spot here, I'm going to do 2 double crochets. So that completes my cluster of 3. My cluster of 3 double crochets, and then in my next chain 1 spot, I'm going to do a cluster of 3 double crochets. Then I'm going to chain 2, and then another cluster of double crochets into that same chain spot. And then a cluster of double crochets in my next chain spot. Chain 2, a cluster of double crochets into that same chain spot. So I've gotten 2.5 of my corners done. Going into my third corner, doing a cluster of double crochets. My clusters are sets of 3s. Then a chain 2, and then another cluster of double crochets into that same chain spot. And then because this one was a half, I'm going to do a cluster of double crochets over here. And then chain 2 and into the top of my chain 3. And see, it's not quite right. They're not quite the right size yet. So I'm going to chain 2 and do 2 double crochets into that chain 1 or chain 2 spot from the previous one. And now I'm doing the middle. I have a middle to do, I should say. And it's going to be a cluster of 3 double crochets into that middle spot. And then I'm going back to another corner, so it's a cluster of 3 double crochets. And then a chain 2, and then another cluster of double crochets. And then we're going into the middle spot again, so it's only one cluster of double crochets. And then another corner, so it's going to be a cluster of double crochets. And it's 3 double crochets as a cluster. chain 2, 1, 2, a cluster, which is 3 double crochets into that same spot to make that corner. So now I have half hole and a hole, so 2.5 corners done. I'm going to do a center here, so it's a cluster of 3 double crochets. I'm going to go into a corner, so it's going to be a cluster of 3 double crochets. Then a chain of 2, another cluster of double crochets. That completes 3.5 corners. I'm going to go into my last center spot, which is a cluster of double crochets. And I'm going to finish up my half corner that I started. So it's a cluster of 3 double crochets. And then a chain of 1, or sorry, a chain of 2, because the corner into our top of our 2 chains from the previous one. Now, if you're doing a different size thing, you can check this covers the front and starts to come up the sides. So that's one side done. So I'll go ahead and cut that off for now and set it to the side. So now I'm going to repeat that one more time for the other side. Make a second side for my cover. So there's side 1. Okay, for the second one, I'm not going to cut off the yarn. I'm going to start crocheting it together with my first one. So I'm going to go into both sides, pull through both, and single crochet all the way around. So one of these chains for the corner belongs to this edge, one belongs to what will be our open edge. So my last stitch before I deviate will be into one of my chains for the corner. Alright, so all 3 out of my 4 sides are now done, so I have a pocket. Now I want this side to be my front side, because I like the blue better. So I'm going to go down the top of my blue side. I'm going to crochet into single crochet into all of them until I get to the center. Then I'm going to chain 2, so I create a little hole, and then I'm going to continue on. Remember, one of your corners, single crochets, belong to your top row, or top side. The other one belongs to this side, and these sides need to go together. So, because I did not start on that one, I need to do one single crochet through both blocks now. make sure you're getting the single crochets on this side, not this side, because we're not to that point yet. Alright, now we're going to go on what I'm calling the back side. You're going to single crochet into the second chain now, that's in this corner, and across until you get to the center again. And then you're going to chain enough that will make it a loop around everything. So I got 18 so far, which will give me a nice little loop here. If you want shorter or longer, you can adjust that. Thinking I'm going to go shorter. Maybe I'll go back down and start with 10. Because this is like your hanging keychain part. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Because you need to go through your loop over here. And that's what can hang on your keychain. So 10's a little on the short side. If you want it short. It's personal preference. But what you're doing is the chain 2 from the front side is you'll put this in, and then this, just tack it down real quick. So from the stitch you came out of is where you do your single crochet, you tack it down. If you want, you can also do a chain 3 instead of a chain 2 over here, but I like the chain 2 better. And that's where your thing would hold. So my chain 10 is about 2 fingers. I'm going to go chain 15 because I think I want a little longer than that. Depends on your preference. So let's pull it back out, undo my tack down stitch, and add 5 more. Alright, my tack down stitch is just a single crochet here into the stitch I came out of. And then I'm going to continue on, single crochet across the top till I get to my corner, and my earbuds are still in here. So just adding some weight. And remember, we use one of the single crochets from this corner for this side. The other one is still remaining, so you got to use that up still. And that will be your last stitch. And you're complete. Just weave in your ends.